Hello, everyone. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Terraria. And just as a disclaimer, this video is going to be structured a little bit differently. We prepared a few little topics to talk about and some questions. And since me and Dark played through Terraria together, completely co-op, we're both going to be talking about it. I will have text transitions for each of the different topics and questions that we'll be going through, and with whoever's talking, our names will appear in the top left corner of the screen, so if you ever get confused, just look there. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say, so let's get into the video. So, the new update brought a horde of new things. Specifically, one to notice is the visuals and the sounds of everything have been updated. Lots of new creatures have new sounds to them, and lots of old creatures also have new sounds to them. I was exploring the caves and I would have to take a double take sometimes because of a new sound that I didn't hear before. And a lot of the times it would just kind of catch me off guard. I found exploring the caves to be a little more interesting with the ambiance of the different new sounds. There are some details in the visuals that did change, such as more wind affecting the trees, branches swaying, whatever, grass moving in the wind. It just felt more alive. I did appreciate the new amount of ambiance that was brought with the updated visuals and sound with the Journey's End update, and I'm glad I got to see them and actually appreciate them, instead of not noticing them and just kind of going through the game. They were a welcome addition as I played through again. Also, just for future reference, I went into the Journey's End update completely blind. I hadn't seen anything on it. So when it came out for consoles, well, it was a new adventure.
Now, for visual and sounds, there is a lot that I'm probably going to refer to the computer version because I play that more often. This is actually the first time that I have fully completed Terraria on the Xbox. I have not gotten this close ever. The closest that I've gotten was on the PS4 when I was in middle school, which was a few years back. But what can I say about the visuals from when I have hopped on Terraria here and there on the Xbox is they've greatly improved. The background with the 1.4 update was dramatically changed and was a lot more pleasing to look at than earlier versions before 1.4. It just made it easier on the eyes, and this goes for computer as well, which that one has more visual detail, because computer. But overall, Xbox was not disappointing. It was probably the best that it could be, and having it be the best, it was nice. For the sound, there was new music or sound effects when hitting certain creatures. Like, I think there was some during the Blood Moon where I think the Flesh guys had different sound. Something had a different sound, like, between the enemies, so you can decipher what was made of flesh and what was made of tin or iron or something else. The sound in general made it more immersive. It just made it feel like I was actually there in character experimenting with things, and it was nice.
One thing that I did notice that had changed quite drastically from when I remember the game, which was back on 360, was the pacing of it. It felt much faster than it ever had before. The pacing of the 360 was very slow, sluggish, in comparison to this new update. And we managed to actually get through it in a few days. And on the 360, well, for me at least, when I was playing, that wasn't possible. It took months to get to the point that I got to in a few days. So I do appreciate the quickened pacing, because I'm not a fan of things that are super long and tedious. Like, yeah, I can have the patience for it, but eventually I'll just kind of click and stop. I'll stop having the patience for it, and I'm just like, no, I can't do this anymore. I need to do something else. But with the new pacing, there was always something to do, some way to progress. So it kept me entertained, and I really appreciate that. In fact, it made me like the game a bit more. At the start, I kind of started with a negative bias because I knew how long it used to take, and I was essentially prepping for that. And it was kind of like a stone was in my stomach, just a heavy weight that I could feel, and I was not wanting it to take as long as I remembered it being. But it was a great relief to see that it didn't take that long. The game that I remembered isn't the game now. It's a whole new experience, and I appreciate that.
Now, about pacing, it was relatively fast. Nothing felt like it was taking super long or stuff was just going really slow. Days seemed to go by in a matter of seconds when we were doing little things. Crazy would be off mining, I would be doing tedious little tasks to improve either potions to trinkets and just little things, and making the arena and building the house, and just my little tedious things. But in the matter of doing all that, pacing never seemed to slow. The only time pacing was meh was when we beat the game and we were trying to find a certain item to buff us. It was, I don't know if Crazy recorded it, but we were trying to get a band-aid to make the Ankh shield. It was just, it took time. But other than that, it went all fast. There was nothing slow or felt like it was taking 30 years to do. But it was going fast. And I feel like me and Crazy went through the game faster than I would usually go. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But overall, the pacing of the game was great. We started from having basically wood, and I think we went to cactus armor, I kind of forgot. Then we went on to, I think, platinum? I think we like skipped all the other armors and just went straight from cactus to platinum to demonite armor. And then after we got demonite, the hellstone, hell armor. And then we went on to the hard mode. And everything just kind of flowed. Like, there was times where I guess we rushed it and we weren't prepared for a boss, but we ended up figuring out how to do it, and we got past that part. It was just basically us under preparing, but the pacing was fine. And I really enjoyed it, and it kept me immersed.
The Journey's End update brought in a slew of new items to find, and I very much liked the whole truck's worth of items that it brought with it. There was so much new stuff to discover and to craft. It was kind of overwhelming in a way, but in a good way. I appreciated getting new rare drops from enemies, finding different craftable things. There was so much to do that essentially, as long as there was something new to find, I wasn't bored. There was new items from trinkets, weapons, consumables. Basically every category of item had something new to find. I think what I appreciated most, though, was finding the random items. Well, I call them kind of random, but I found a shell that basically the description said, if you listen closely, you can hear the sea. And on a whim, I went to interact with the object, and it teleported me to one of the oceans. I found that really cool. Just something random that I found that has a purpose, that does something, instead of an item that doesn't do anything, that's just there as like, oh, this is a plant for decoration or something like that. I appreciated the slew of new items that had uses to them, even if it was something small.
Now off to items. Overall, there was a lot. There was a lot of new ones from 1.4 that we ended up getting, but there was also ones that I think we got that were actually already in the game, but I just assumed they were per 1.4 because I haven't seen them, or I just wasn't ever lucky enough to get them. But the items that we do know were the Terra boots and the very advanced sword, which takes, I think, was it 8 or 9 swords combined together to make it, which was really overpowered and actually made you feel like a god, which was nice. But just like the diversity in items that Terraria has always had to make you feel like you're constantly improving or you're constantly growing and making progress. It's not from you finding crystals or mana stars, like that's part of it, but it's also about the items you find that you're able to use. Like you can go from using a yo-yo, like a wooden yo-yo, to a much better yo-yo that a mob or a boss dropped. Or you can go on from using that yo-yo to ice boomerang. The item's diversity makes you feel so involved that you're constantly growing and gives you that general concept that you're never at a stale point until you get to a boss and it's like, oh, okay, well, I need to make some potions now. But if you make potions early on and then go on to have the items you have and fight a boss, well, you're basically set. Terraria just has that great feeling of growth, that you're constantly growing and you're never stuck at a single point unless, you know, you don't make potions. But if you make some potions here and there, you dodge and you do all the general stuff during boss fights, you're basically always having fun. There's nothing that really can push you off that path, in my opinion. And I enjoy that. I think there's like a lot of growth that could happen, but there's also those little tedious tasks for those people that do want to do that. And well, it's basically everyone can go their own paths and get their own items, and no one character is basically the same, in my opinion.
Now, in terms of this, the gameplay, it kind of felt, you know, the same. It had all the same controls and whatever as I remembered. And the momentum of your character and how it felt, it was all the same, which I did appreciate. Basically, everything around you in the Journey's End update is what changed. Now, I did get a little befuddled in terms of the inventory and how it kind of worked out. It was slightly annoying, but I just got used to it, because instead of being able to press RB and, you know, circle all the way around through your inventory, like trinkets to crafting to whatever, you had to press LB to go down to the crafting and RB to go into like your trinkets, your NPC tab, and everything like that. And I would usually just press RB to circle through everything, but you know, I had to get used to that. But most of the gameplay isn't different from what I remember. You just explore. And I spent a lot of time underground, which is what you're supposed to do. But I'm glad that since the pacing has been quickened, the gameplay itself was not changed. You still go down, you still mine for the ores to prepare for the bosses, you defeat the bosses, get something better than the ores, and you keep going through bosses until, like, the Wall of Flesh, hard mode, you get better pickaxes to mine the other ores, and essentially, the whole gameplay loop that I appreciated didn't change, even though the pacing was quickened. So this new Terraria with Journey's End essentially still felt like the Terraria that I came to enjoy. It wasn't some foreign object that I didn't like and didn't want any part of. It wasn't like other games where they had specific updates where they changed stuff, like how the character felt or the general flow of the game. It was still Terraria, and I appreciated that. It just had new stuff to discover and explore.
Now, for overall gameplay, if you are constantly immersed in the game and you're constantly playing, you're gonna have fun. There's nothing that can really push you off that path, like I said before. And just basically playing the game either in a slower pace or a much faster pace, you're constantly going to be having fun. And with the items, the ores, the mining, the exploring, the bosses, just everything put together makes it fun. There's like, there's even like those little side things like Duke Fishron, the Slime King Queen, the Light Fairy, I think she was. We never ended up fighting her, but just doing like all those bosses that were side kind of things, just having the option to go and actually fight them if you wanted to was a cool option. Like, they give you paths, like you could go down a mage path, you can go down a warrior path, a ranger path, a summoner path, and it's just all those different paths. There's so many options for each one. Summoner, you could have like 10 or so pets out, or I don't know, something like that. Just having pets out, and then you got your mage class where you could basically wield magic. You know, shoot fireballs, or shoot these little crystal storms that I've used a few times. Or you can go to a ranger class and use guns like the Mega Shark, which helped us out, but we'll get to that later. Then you have the warrior class, which you got your general yo-yo melee kind of thing, your boomerang, your sword, yo-yo. Just the different paths you can take make the gameplay so much more enjoyable and immersive, and makes you feel so much different if you're playing with other people in the long run. Because people will go warrior class because swords, but then just having the choice to diverse from that path later on is cool. Like being able to just make a single helmet, and that just changes your class until you be the Moonlord, of course. Then you have to, you have to make the whole armor to be that class. But even before that, just making the helmet or making anything that's different from anyone else you're playing with or you've seen play, it's a nice option that you're able to choose and go your own path to have fun.
Now, on this matter, I don't have too much to say. We did play Journey mode for a little while, because, it was the Journey's End update, so we might as well make a Journey world and a Journey character to see what's up. And essentially, Journey mode is just creative with some extra steps. At first, I didn't think I would like the extra steps, but in the end, I found it really satisfying just to find literally anything and research it, because it was visual progression. In terms of video games, I really enjoy visual progression. I like to be able to see a number go up, or a bar complete, or a little sound playing, saying like, "Oh, you completed a task, good job." I enjoy seeing it, and that's pretty much what I enjoyed from Journey mode. Although I do wish there was tabs or a list to keep track of all of the items in the game. That way you can check off the ones you've already researched and whatever. Kinda like the bestiary that they added, which, by the way, I do enjoy. But there's not. So it's a little tedious trying to keep track of everything on your own, because there are so many items. But other than that, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy researching. It's just so satisfying to watch the two little things clamp onto your object, and then the bar goes up and a little sound plays. But that's all I really have to say on that matter.
Now for Journey mode. I don't hate it, but I don't prefer it. I'm more of the kind of go out, explore, get the materials, come back. If I don't have enough, go back and explore. Journey mode is the opposite of that. You can go out, find a certain amount of materials, research it, and make stacks on stacks of the item that you don't need to ever go find again, which is fun. Like, if you just wanted to go into Terraria, build a few houses, kind of just progress not slowly, but more fast, but also keeping the adventure, but don't want the, tediousness of finding certain items. Say that you wanted to find a bunch of iron. So you go searching and searching, and if you find 100 iron ore, you can just research that, and boom, now you have 999 that you can constantly make just from your inventory without going and having to explore. Just having that in general is fun, I guess, for some people. For me, I like to actually go out and adventure. But if you just want to, like, you know, have a more easygoing and just a chill experience and want to basically make whatever you want without having to go and find it or do all this other little tedious stuff to be able to get the item or items you're trying to get, journey mode's for you. And it's basically, you know, creative mode. You can make yourself a god, and on multiple occasions, you know, you can freeze time, so you can stop the corruption and hollow from spreading. There's just a lot of little tiny things you can do. You can change the time and all that also. And like doing that is, you know, it's creative mode. And there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't prefer it because I like the base Terraria survival experience. Being able to just go off, find the stuff, and if I don't have enough, go find the stuff again. It's tedious. I like tedious. I'm a tedious guy. I will do so much in Terraria that is tedious and unnecessary, but it's who I am, and that's what makes Terraria fun for me, because there's stuff like that to do, like making a greenhouse to grow plants, or making little kind of globes where you can make your own biome. That's also fun. I'm a tedious guy. My computer world is pretty tedious. I've showed crazy, and I wasn't really able to do that on this one as much as I would like to, but we'll get into that later. And just overall, journey mode was okay. It was an okay experience, I'll say that. It's just having to research everything, because you get the sudden urge to want to research everything when you start playing. So it's like, oh, I got 100 dirt, I'm gonna research this. Oh, I got wood, okay, can I turn that wood into certain items and research those items? You basically spending most of your time near crafting places at the very beginning, and it gives you the sense of great progression, but it also gives you the sense of like, I want to leave this table and explore. That's the problem me and Crazy had when playing it, or I had. I don't know if he had it, but if he did, well, we both had that problem. But overall, I prefer vanilla over, I guess vanilla, you would call it vanilla, but I prefer normal Terraria over Journey.
Now, me and Dark play D&D, and we role play a lot. So when playing Terraria, we went in as some original characters that, you know, we came up with a while ago. These were our first OCs, of course, because we thought it would be funny. But in the end, it kind of turned out to be an interesting kind of roleplay experience, because Dex as a character, for me, my OC, is quirky, and his OC is more on the serious side, and his OC was isolated and everything. So by the end of our journey in Terraria, we had a roleplay moment where Dex and Shiga essentially kind of showed that they were, you know, closer. I kind of imagined Shiga just giving a little grin as they were saying and getting ready for the start of their next adventure. And I really liked that, because it was as if me and Dark were also doing that. So in the end, it kind of turned out like me and Dark and our characters were both getting ready to part for a new adventure, and I really enjoyed that. It was an interesting perspective to look on, to say for the very least. But I did enjoy it, and it was interesting.
Now, for this next topic, I'm gonna have to call someone real quick. Hey! Shiga! You free? You know your experience with Dex? Yeah, pink hair, crazy guy? Yeah, you wanna come talk about it? Okay! Here you go. Hello? Is this thing on? I don't know if this is working. You know what? Who cares? Hi. named Shiga. Probably watching me on your TV right now. Or you're watching Dix. Either way, you're watching something. Who cares? I guess where to start. My experience with Dex? To be honest, he was insane. He was an insane guy. He did basically everything and anything he could. He was all over the place, sporadic, sometimes annoying, but being in isolation so long, I grew to enjoy that. I'll be honest. Dex brought some light into my world again. After being stuck in space, counting the countless stars, looking into the abyss, having nothing else to do, watching millions of lives disappear. Having Dex there was refreshing. I was able to let loose, feel some emotion again. It didn't last long, but the time I did spend with him, I enjoyed it. Now, don't tell him I told you this. But at the end of the day, I smiled and I felt sad when saying goodbye to him. It may not be the last time I see him, but it was still sad to say goodbye to a close friend after all this time we've grown together and become closer. I just wish I had more time in that blocky world with countless creatures and with Dex. I went from having nothing to making a friend again. That insane psychopath.
For the bosses, I thought they would have added more mainline new bosses, but they really didn't. All of the bosses that they kind of added were optional, which, I mean, I'd have no problems with that they were optional. I just kind of wish they were more mainline, more progression, like, oh, now there's this boss that you have to kill to progress and get new gear, whatever. In the end, of course, this didn't bother me. I still did appreciate that there were a few extra bosses that I could slay. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to say about the bosses, except that the twins still suck.
Okay, now about the bosses. Where to start? How about we start with the new bosses? I think there was one new boss. Two. I don't know if there was one or two. I can't remember if the Queen Slime was new or old. I've never heard of her or seen her until 1.4 when I was playing the Xbox. But she could have been in the game. I just never fought her. But the other one, the fairy kind of one, we never ended up fighting or ever seen. Like, I saw a picture of her on the Terraria wiki, but other than that, I know nothing about her. And it was kind of disappointing not being able to fight her, but I feel like in the future, I will be able to fight her, and when that day comes, I'll probably have fun. But about the other bosses, there was times we struggled, to say the least. I say struggled, but we sometimes went head in before being properly prepared or ready. But when it came to the actual changes in the bosses, I saw none from what I remember. Like, other than, the health bar, that was a nice little touch to actually be able to see how much health the boss has. It was a nice little indicator, like, hey, the bosses that have health, they're about to make their change. And you don't have to like squint anymore and like look at that little bar on their head or something to say, oh, that guy has that much health. Like, that bar's still there, and it's like when you have to destroy multiple body parts to kill the boss, it's like, okay, well, like, how is it almost broken? How close is it? You still gotta squint, but like the overall health, you don't gotta squint at that anymore, and it's nice. You can just kind of sit back, relax, and look at that big bar as it slowly goes from being full to halfway full to being completely obliterated by God knows whatever weapon you used, you psychopath. But the bosses seemed easy. Not easy, but like they didn't seem as hard as I guess they used to be with how the controller used to be set up and playing on Xbox. It was just simpler, and I had fun. The bosses didn't seem too bad, they didn't seem too hard, too easy. they were just right about like where they needed to be to show you your progression, and it was nice to have a visual reference.
Now, I'm not a huge fan of grinding. I never have been. So, in the terms of me not wanting to grind and Dark wanting to grind, we butted heads a few times in terms of trying to, go. But I remember one specific instance where I did not appreciate grinding. And essentially, I was just trying to get a rare drop from a monster, a specific monster, and it just wouldn't drop. And that was very, very annoying.
Now, the struggle of grinding. We only had a few instances of this, and that was at the very end of the game. Like, there were some times where we had to get some Souls of Night, or Souls of Light, or Souls of Flight, or something along the lines of Souls that, over time it was hard to get our hands on. But when it came to the actual trinkets, like, there was a time, like I mentioned before, where Crazy was trying to get the bandage. He was stuck in the jungle for a pretty long time trying to get his hands on one, and he never got one. Me, on the other hand, had that kind of same struggle when I was trying to get the, what was it called? Armor polish. There we go. Because we were going to make the Ankh shield. This was like all trying to make the Ankh shield, and we were trying to get the items that we didn't have, and we had to go through this whole grinding process that ended up taking, I think, around 3-4 hours just to get it all. A lot longer than we thought it would be, and it was just, like, we could have avoided it. I know there was some items that Crazy ended up throwing away because he's used to throwing everything away and not playing like the way I do, which I basically play as a hoarder. I keep basically everything I find, from it being something very small and not very useful, like a trinket, like a shackle. I will keep all the shackles I get and just throw them into an equipment chest. I keep stuff. Crazy throws stuff away to free up inventory space because he's just exploring and trying to progress, and I'm the tedious guy that wants to get everything and make the best stuff. We had complications with that, and I'll get into that later, but overall, we had no really struggles of grinding. There was nothing that was too bad in my eyes. I think we kind of had it all laid out. It just was more longer than we thought it would be, and that kind of wavered when we were trying to do tedious things that I would usually do. So it was something.
So there were about 2 hours in our playthrough where we kinda got stuck. We couldn't get past the twins, or the destroyer, or essentially any of the mecha bosses, and we couldn't figure out what we were missing, because we just weren't strong enough to defeat them. And we spent 2 hours racking our brains and trying to find anything that we could to get us past this, when really the answer to our prayers was really simple. The Mega Shark. All we needed to do was get a gun, and then we defeated all 3 of them. Now, you can chop this up to us being stubborn, or being very smooth-brained, or maybe both. But the fact that all we had to do was get gun, well, really lets you take a look at how blind we are to things, I guess.
Now, I'm pretty sure we've all heard of the Mega Shark before. You know, the gun looks like a shark, shoots extremely fast, and, is overall extremely powerful. Now, what I'm getting at here is I'm referring back to when I was talking about the Mega Shark earlier and how we made it, and how it was really helpful and overpowered. I say overpowered because we used it for all the mechanical bosses, and it helped extremely. As we entered hard mode, I'm gonna start there. As we entered hard mode, it became a struggle to progress, after we got animatite armor. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but we got the red, kind of armor. And, well, I did. I think Crazy sticked with Orialchem. Sorry if I'm pronouncing these ores wrong. I am not the best when it comes to English. I apologize. Anyways, when we had our armors, we were basically, in my opinion, and his opinion, we were ready to take on the bosses, but we never got close. Like, we've got close a few times, but there was just something. We felt like something was missing, and we didn't have what we needed. We had good weapons, we had good kind of strategies in place, but we just never could. We were just stuck, and we didn't know how to progress, and we didn't know what to do. So we ended up having the bright idea and underestimating the Mega Shark. We're underestimating it. We're like, we don't need that. That's not gonna be helpful. Oh, were we wrong? We looked at each other. We were kind of coming up with ideas like, do we need more potions? Do we just, what do we need to do to progress? And then Crazy had an idea. Let's make the Mega Shark. And at this point, I was, yeah, you know what? Sure, let's do it. I have enough money to get us the illegal parts and the Mega Shark. I already had one for myself because I was planning on making it, but I never did. So I got Crazy the materials. He went to the oceans and killed sharks to get the fins. He came back. I took the Souls of Might because we've killed the Destroyer at this point a few times. I think we killed it once because we made the Terror Blade or something. Yeah, I think we made the Terror Blade and we were able to kill the Destroyer. The, an easy worm guy. Simple. But the twins is what we were having the problem with. Now, when we went to make this Mega Shark, I made it. And by the time I, bought the materials, I didn't go help to get the fins. I actually stayed home and took our cursed flames and made cursed bullets, I think they were called. It was the green flame bullets that, you make with the cursed flame and 150 musket shots. And I made, I think, 5 to 6 stacks of those. And I don't think we actually used all of them. I think I've only used around 2-3 stacks at most. I don't know how many Crazy's used, but I made a lot, and we never ended up using all of them. So it was a good investment to say the least. But we made these weapons, and we took our potions and our iron skin, and I don't think we took a regeneration. I think we just took an iron skin. I'm not sure, but we took an iron skin for sure. I don't know if we took a regeneration or not. We went out, summoned the twins, and fought. And oh my god, was it easy. I sat there and I shot at the flame eye and he shot at the laser eye. We ended up killing it way faster. Just having that Mega Shark made our lives so much easier for the mechanical bosses. After that, we never used them. But the mechanical bosses, highly recommend the Mega Shark. You are gonna love it.
Continuing on with the kind of common theme, having to prep for bosses, we would prep as much as we could potentially go through without meticulously grinding. That was mostly on my part. If I left the prepping to Dark, he would have grinded for anything he possibly could. The trinkets that he could get, the armor that he could get, anything he could get, potions, whatever. Oh, but because I was there, we did not do that. And a lot of the times we would go into boss fights underprepared and die. But regardless of this, it was still fun. The main takeaway from this is prep equals grinding. And when you put that near me, I don't like it, okay? I don't like it.
Now for the thing that I've mentioned a few times now in these earlier, I guess, tabs we call them, or topics. There was times we didn't prepare enough, or in my eyes we didn't, because I would usually always prepare a lot before it came to a boss battle, and I would make like potions and a good arena that was easy, and I just would do all this little tedious things to make the bosses a lot easier. But this one, having to do co-op and how me and Crazy's playstyles differed, we had to improvise and progress. And sometimes when progressing fast, we weren't prepared enough. And that ended up in us dying a few times to bosses and losing some money, yada yada yada. We weren't ever preparing enough like I would, and that just made it a little more difficult to play. But we made it past that part, and we found out a system that worked. He would go off and get the materials to meet the bosses, and by the time he was doing all that, I had that time to prep for us, making iron skin, trying to make regeneration potions, and anything else I could think of that could help us, improving the arena, yada yada yada. We found out a way how to break up roles, and I'll get into that later, but yeah, prepping was an obstacle that we ended up getting over pretty fast.
So, again, I'm going to be restating this. Me and Dark went into this blind, this whole update. I went in more blind than he did. He essentially saw the beginning stuff, the stuff that was easy to see, but I was completely blind. And when going through it, just having everything to be able to be discovered, I'm so glad that I went in blind. It really made this adventure feel like an adventure, like it was new lands just waiting to be discovered. And that was great. If I went into it not blind, my experience would have been kind of, downed. It wouldn't feel like an adventure. I already know what's going to happen. So having this kind of feeling, being blind and exploring, it was really something I needed. I needed to be able to find new things. My current situation, it was quite helpful. I really enjoyed jumping down the rabbit hole that was Journey's End, and I'm so glad I forced myself to stay blind until the console release of it.
Now to talk about the blind adventure. This topic is interesting. I only played a little bit of 1.4 on the computer. I never got super duper far, and I never really saw anything. I saw like the general kind of stuff they changed, like, changing the mini-map. I looked at the settings, and I looked at the new heart design and star design once 1.4 was released, and the new graphic change on the computer. But I came in completely blind on Xbox, and I have to say, it was a 10 times better experience than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be an experience where I went in and I would get bored and not have fun because I'm used to how computer works, playing with a keyboard and mouse. But Xbox was fun. There wasn't anything that I saw wrong with it, and overall, it wasn't bad. It was a lot better than I thought it would be going in blind, because there was a lot I haven't seen, and I was a little skeptical doing it all in Xbox because I want to get the full experience like I got when playing on computer, being close and personal with my screen. But I'm not disappointed that I did it on Xbox. Now looking back on it, I'm actually glad I did it on Xbox, and I was actually able to play with my brother, my friend, the boss. Crazy. I'm happy that I was able to play with him and go through it basically blind and seeing the new things with him, which the new things to him were everything past Xbox 360 and onwards. For me, it was everything after Xbox 360. That was all, I already knew all that. But then when it came to 1.4, I knew nothing of that, and I also had some stuff where I didn't know from the previous updates. But it was just, going in blind was a lot better than I thought it would be, and I don't regret it.
So in the beginning, with the co-op experience, we had to learn to work as a team. Like, yes, we'd worked as a team before, but Terraria is a bit different, as we both had ways of playing that kind of clashed. I was faster and just wanted to do everything in the name of progression to keep myself entertained, and Dark wanted to do the more tedious things, and he wanted to go slower, which did run into a few problems down the road, where we would be under prepped, and then Dark was telling me, hey, we're under prepped, we need to stop dying, come on, let's do the thing. And then I would just be too stubborn and just, no, boss time. And then there would be times where I'm waiting on him to do something he wanted or whatever, and I would have to find ways of entertaining myself, such as going down underground and ravaging the natural ecosystem. But in the end, it worked out well, because by the end of it, we found a good flow, a good balance in between his preferences for playing and my preferences. And it worked well, because while our preferences were quite opposites, in the end, they both helped each other. And I think that was cool to see. This experience was kind of a team building exercise, really. And I don't know about Dark, but I hope he sees it the same way, because for me, it was kind of an important step.
Now, on to the co-op experience from beginning to end. Me and Crazy had struggles, to say the least, at the beginning. He wanted to progress and move forward, and I wanted to do what I usually do in Terraria and do the tedious tasks of, making a cool house, getting the trinkets that I was able to get at this point, making stuff that really didn't need to be made, but I just wanted to make it because I wanted to take it slow and have fun. But Crazy wanted to continue and progress. It took a minute for us to get kind of used to each other's playstyles of Terraria. He wanted to progress fast, and I wanted to take everything slow and basically take my time. This happened for probably the very beginning all the way to middle-ish, before we entered kind of hard mode. We had troubles, but we kind of got used to it after hard mode, and we got used to each other's playstyles. And we both made kind of workarounds. Like when I wanted to take things a little slower, he would go off and find more materials, or he would do his own thing while I did the things that I was trying to do. And then when he was doing things he needed to do, I would go and do my things. I was a much slower pace, he was a much faster pace, and that kind of collided and clashed, and we got to the point where it was a struggle for a little bit. But we worked around, and at the end of the day, we had fun, and it was probably one of the best experiences I have ever had playing Terraria, and I am glad I was able to share with Crazy.
So what are my overall thoughts and my opinion after going through all of this and playing the new Journey's End update? Well, from my older memories, back in the 360 and a little bit of Xbox One, I like it so much better. I started off playing with a negative bias that completely got flipped on its head. I like Terraria a lot better now. It is so much more fun to play. And with how much the Journey's End update added, I know there's still stuff I haven't discovered yet. So overall, this was definitely a positive experience. I don't know if I would start a new character and play again, but I'm so glad I played it, especially going into it blind. My overall opinion of the game has changed from a slight negative bias to fairly positive. So was the Journey's End update worth it? Well, find out when I answer that question in a few seconds.
Overall thoughts, I enjoyed it. It was a lot better than I thought it would be, and I am glad Terraria has an end. It kind of knows its resting point, and I'm glad that, there's still mods and stuff you can get on the computer, but having Terraria have an end, it's kind of like a closure, and it's kind of like, okay, this was in the past. This was some of our childhoods, and this was some of our kind of first game experiences in a way. But having Terraria end, quote unquote, end here is nice. It was a good eye-opener, like, hey, new adventure awaits. It's time to move forward and explore. Go out and spread your wings. Terraria will have a place always in my heart, and will always be one of my favorite games. The crazy stuff you're able to do, even now, like flying carts, playing mini golf, and all the other little tasks that you don't need to do, but there's just having it all there is nice. And having that closure of the game being over is a very refreshing feeling and kind of gives you a sense of, it's time to move on. New adventure awaits, the future is here, and it's time to take that step. And I'm pretty sure Terraria did a very great job at showing appreciate everything that I've learned from Terraria.
Now, this is the section of the video where I'm just going to answer a few simple questions. Would I recommend this game to others, now that it has the Journey's End update? Yes. Yes, I would. And it would be a normal recommendation. Like, oh, hey, this game has the new update, and it's finished. Play it. It wouldn't be like, oh, maybe for a first-time experience. This game is great for a first-time experience, and maybe even a second or third. It's just an enjoyable playthrough. Although I don't think I would like it as much if I played alone. So the solo experience may be a little bit more dull. So grab a friend. The file size is small enough, and it's not super expensive, so it should be easy enough to find someone. Because the co-op experience has so much fruit. It's like a bountiful harvest, and your experience will be different with every new character. There's just so much to explore and do that having a friend along with you for the adventure is great. So yes, I would recommend this game to people.
Would I recommend this game to others? Yes, highly. This is the best game I have ever played for like the feeling of a RPG survival experience. It is the best, has the little quirky humor here and there, and it's just overall a great game. There's not really much story, but it's just the stuff you're able to do to progress, to feel accomplished. Even like doing little things, like you get an achievement for when your little NPCs throw a party. Just Terraria's little miscellaneous things, just those things make the game feel so much alive. It breathes breath into a RPG survival. And in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with it. It is the best it can be, and I am very grateful I was able to experience it from basically the beginning to the end.
So I kind of answered this question in my last question because, my brain kind of does what it wants. So you should probably already know the answer to this one, at least in my perspective. Definitely co-op. I had so much fun with Dark. I don't know if he realizes how much fun I really had with him there, but I want you to know, and for him to know, that the co-op experience, at least in my opinion, is better. And I probably would always play with someone.
Solo or co-op? Good question. I would say it's a hard one. I recommend solo for me, just because I like doing the tedious things, and unless I can find someone that likes doing the same things I do, it won't make my experience or their experience fun because I'm the one slowing them down. I would prefer, like, you know, if you and your friend just kind of wanted to go in and play the game and you guys had similar playstyles, sure, co-op. There's stuff that makes co-op fun, and then there's stuff that makes, you know, solo fun. Solo, you can do your tedious tasks without having to worry about what other people want. When you're playing co-op, you actually have to take the other person's, like, you know, playstyle and opinion into your thoughts. Like, okay, well, they want to fight this boss, but I'm not ready to fight that boss. We have to come to an agreement. Where in solo, you can just make that decision on your own. Co-op, you have to discuss, you have to communicate, you have to be, you know, in contact. Like, you have to basically always be able to express what you want to do so the other person knows, and that you guys can make a work around your playstyles. So I would prefer solo because my playstyle is so much different than any of my friends. But playing on Xbox, I wouldn't mind playing with a friend. I don't mind playing on co-op. I just always have to make the workaround from doing my tedious things to playing more fast.
So, I don't really have a favorite item or weapon or anything from the new update, but if I had to choose, I would probably choose that shell I found to instantly teleport to one of the oceans. It's just great. It's like having an extra portal. Essentially, I had 3 fast travel points instead of just 1 with the magic mirror, so I could get to the dungeon easier or anything on the right side. It was just nice to have, and I kept it right next to my magic mirror, at least most of the time. So yeah, whatever that shell was called, that's my favorite item.
Now, when it comes to my favorite weapon or item, that's a hard choice. There's a lot of weapons and items that I love, like some of my trinkets, the Ankh shield, the Terra boots, the fire gauntlet, the shell, and then you have the nebula wings. All those are my favorite trinkets. I know I said favorite items, but I'll tell you the favorite items after I tell you, basically my whole loadout. When it comes to, the weapons, Zenith, the new, I think it's a new 1.4 sword. And then, you have the Stardust Dragon Staff, the SDMG gun. And then you have the, that best yo-yo, the Terrarian. That's all cool. But the favorite weapon-wise, I'm gonna have to give it to vampire knives. I love them. You can't get them from solar eclipses anymore, like you used to be able to. You used to be the vampires used to drop them, but now you can only get them from, I think they're corrupted chests or something. I forgot where you actually get them, but you can't get them from vampires anymore, which I think that's where I got mine. But yeah, overall, vampire knives are my favorite. They are the best, and no matter how many times I use them, when they basically do no damage to later on bosses, they're really fun to use, and the lifesteal, early on that they give you, it is nice. Second place would probably have to go to the Celestial Shell. I love becoming like a werewolf or becoming a mermaid thing when I'm in the water, or just overall having more power during the night or day. It's nice. Those two are probably my favorite, but I'm gonna have to give it to the vampire knives.
So for me, this question's a little hard to answer because I don't really have a favorite part because I liked everything. But if I really needed to narrow it down, it would either have to be in between the new ambiance from the different sounds that they added with the update, or just the amount of stuff. I really like to explore and discover things that are interesting. So just the amount of new things that were added that I didn't know about made it really fun. So if I had to choose one, probably the amount of new stuff, but it is a little general. So the amount of new items would probably have to be my favorite part of the update if I had to choose.
Now, my favorite part of the update, it's small, but it made me feel better. I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And the part of the update was the minimap. I loved having the option to change the border of my minimap. Just being able to change it to something more pleasing to look at. So it's not, that plain kind of thing. It was just so small, but meant a lot for me who likes to basically change stuff and make things look different. Just having the border, it made it a lot more pleasing to look at when I would go look up that minimap, and it didn't look weird or out of place, and it just felt natural. Second place would have to go to the background. I love what they've done with the background. I love how it can be more open and you're not looking at 30 or so hills for however you can make it look like kind of like a flat hillside or something. The background is nice.
Now, for the question I mentioned earlier, was the update worth it? Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes, like 1,000 times. It changed the experience so much, but in a good way. It added so much. It's kind of hard to explain in one question, so we'll just kind of keep it simple, I guess. I enjoyed all that they added, and the update was definitely worth it.
Was the update worth it? Yes. Having to wait for it to come to Xbox, it was something that I was been waiting on because I wanted to play with Crazy, or try to play with Crazy. And while waiting for it, it took a long time, and I didn't really know much about it, and at times I doubted if it was going to be worth it to wait this long. But doing that and actually waiting for it to come out on Xbox made it so much better to have someone play along with me and just go through that experience together. So in my opinion, waiting for the update to come to Xbox, and if it was worth it, yes, 100% it was worth it. Not a time did I doubt while playing or say while playing, oh, this wasn't worth the wait. It was. There was a lot changed. The pacing, the feeling, overall gameplay, it all changed so much that it just made it feel better and just more pleasing to go through. And I enjoyed that.
Now, the answer to this question is obviously yes. Going in blind did make my experience better. A whole lot better. Because usually with me, if I already know what to expect, my experience is dragged down. But if there's something interesting and new to explore, I like it more. So in terms of games and everything else, even like foods and day-to-day normal stuff, I try to go in blind. With games specifically, I'll either just watch the trailer, or I will skip the trailer, see when the release date is, and go, ah, yes, I'll go in blind. I will specifically try not to take in any information, because I'd like to discover it myself.
Did going in blind make the experience better? Yes. Not knowing what was gonna come or what was gonna happen made it so much better. So much better. Because there was at times where you would find a new item that you've never seen before, and then when you find it, you're like, wow, that's a cool weapon or item or trinket or anything. It was cool to find new things. Also, the amount of things that they did add just gave the game so much more to it. It just added so much and gave you that feeling of accomplishment, or like wanting to explore and find more of these unique items and doing all these other things to get these unique items. It was the best. Overall, it was just the best. Going in blind made the experience 10 times better.
Do I prefer Terraria before or after the Journey's End update? Well, there are things that I do like about before the update, but I think that was just general comfort from something I already knew, instead of something that was new. So if I had to choose in between the two, I would choose the new update. It's definitely better. The game definitely benefits from having this large ending update. It's like a love letter from the developers to the fans, to the game, everything. I really do like the game better with this update.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love Terraria for the update. It was one of my favorite games. I love to just go in, play, and try to beat them in any possible weird way I could figure out how to beat them. And it was just all the things of how much there was and the things you were able to find just made me kept wanting to go back and find these that weren't needed. No, but I wanted to find them because I'm a tedious man, like I've said before. Now, with that being said, I prefer the update. The update added so much more, and it made it just that much better to play. There was just so much diversity and exploration that needed to be done that it felt like you never had time to do it all. of how much stuff they've added or how much stuff that was different. The update made the game 100 times better than it used to be. I love old Terraria, but I prefer and love the update a lot more.
Now, this is an interesting question that I'm not exactly prepared to answer at this time, but I'll do my best. In my perspective, what roles did me and Dark fulfill? Well, I guess if you wanted to boil it down, I was the person who went and got stuff. I spent a lot of time underground just exploring and gathering a bunch of stuff. Ores, whatever. Heart crystals, heart fruits, basically anything that we would need in particular. Hellstone, whatever. And Dark is the one he was kind of the brains of the operation. I was the brawn, smooth brain, get stuff guy, and he was the brains where he made the house, he got all the NPCs to move in, he would know what we need to prep, better trinkets or armor or whatever, and then he would tell me and I would go, get essentially the base material of what we needed, and he would prepare the exact stuff that we needed. So I guess if you wanted to put it this way, he was the brains and I was the brawn. Or if you also wanted to look at it this way, he was a mad scientist and I was a monkey. So there's that. In terms of playing the game, I'm greatly appreciative of how I could count on him to essentially watch my back. I could depend on him and he could depend on me. And that was actually a really nice feeling, being able to depend on each other to get a specific goal done, and being able to work out our differences as a team instead of clashing heads all the time. I don't think he realizes how appreciative I am that he was there as my teammate. Now, our roles may have been simple, but I relied on him heavily, and I hope he relied on me heavily. I'm so glad that we got to go through this together, and I wouldn't have had it any other way.
In my perspective, I saw my role as being the preparation, builder, above ground, underground explorer. I would generally go off and explore anything I could and build when I could. I never kind of sat or I never sat down. I sat down when I was waiting for the blooms to grow or something. I mainly spent my time above ground. For Crazy, I saw him as the minor material kind of grinder guy. He would go off, get the ores or resources that we needed to make the bosses or make armor from the ores. I did some of that, but that was Crazy's main role. For me, mine was just building the house, making it so NPCs can move in, developing the world, and exploring. I wasn't really into the whole mining thing. That was Crazy. So in my perspective, my role was builder, explorer, and preparer. Crazy was the material gathering, resource ore guy, I guess you could call it. Oh, yeah, and I don't know if he's gonna put this in, but if you're here right now, just, scroll down or exit full screen or something. Click on that little, thumbs up. You just want to click that, okay? Don't ask any questions. You just want to click that, and then, while you're down there, there's gonna be a really shiny button. It's gonna be red, and it's gonna say subscribe. Unless you're already, if it's gray and it says subscribed, don't unclick it. But if it doesn't say subscribed, click it. And when you click it, you just want to hit that little bell, okay? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the video this guy makes is the best. That's why he is known as the boss. Don't tell him I told you that.
Now, this is the part of the video where I thank you. I appreciate you coming here and listening to my opinion and seeing my channel grow. If you're new here, old here, thank you. To all of my listeners, I hope you have a wonderful evening, morning, day, night. Whenever you're listening to this, I hope you're having a good time. And if you're going through something and you're struggling, just know that my channel's always here. It's a safe place. If you need somewhere to relax, somewhere to take a breather, somewhere safe to go, you can come here. Anyway, guys, thanks again for listening. I'll see you in the next video, alright? Goodbye, guys.